host of a podcast called the Animating Cast, which is a podcast all about Animaniacs and all the other things like we call the Ruegger-verse, because we talk about Tiny Toon Adventures and Pinky and Brain and all that stuff. I'm happy to be here right now because I'm not only here with two of the amazing minds behind our favorite cartoons as kids, but they're also incredibly nice people. And they're here to answer all the questions that you have for them. We have a microphone right here.
Oh, yeah.
And without any further ado, I think I'm going to introduce them. Right to my right here is Mr. Paul Dini. And sitting next to Paul is Mr. Tom Ruegger.
Hello, Mercy.
So we're going to just open things up with some discussion stuff and ask. You guys have your wonderful questions and all. Feel free to step on up to the plate and ask anything your heart desires, and you just might get the answer to it.
Well, I want to just throw it for a moment to Mr. Dini, who has not been attending conventions for how many years, Mr. Dini?
About 12.
So.
Into the mic.
Oh, 12. At least a dozen years I've not been doing.
So this is a special occasion. So Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming out to see us. So, yeah.
And Paul's been busy with lots of different things, but and we won't talk about anything that Warner Brothers canceled that you wrote and was beautiful. One of those spectacular movies that would have made lots of money, but
Yeah, well.
Warner Brothers added a tax write-off on it.
Yeah, that was the Scooby-Doo Halloween Haunt, which was, or Scoob Halloween Haunt. It was a kind of a sideways sequel to the Scoob movie that came out a few years ago, in that we had taken a small segment of that where we'd seen in Scoob how they came together over Halloween. It was like 2 months later at Christmas where they had their first Christmas together. But somebody decided they wanted to cancel a kids' Christmas movie about a puppy. I didn't think there was any appeal to that,
So this is completed. It's been completed and everything.
It's completed and it's done.
It's good.
And it's good and it'll never be seen because they were so anxious to make immediate money off it that they sold it to the government basically, and they locked it in a vault.
Bizarre.
And you can't see it unless somebody pays for that. I don't even know. It was some sort of weird thing. So it's not even like with Coyote versus Acme or Daffy and Porky. They weren't shopping around. There were plenty of other buyers who wanted it, but they just said, no, we're taking the fast kill from the government.
So there you go. Well, we have some questions right here. Why don't we start with you? Come on up.
Okay, so I know you probably buried it under your portfolio due to the Spider-Man fandom, but I actually like Ultimate Spider-Man. It was actually really
great,
good.
thank you.
It was just as good as the 1994 series. You actually provided a lot of new changes and refreshing changes.
Thank you. I enjoyed working on that. There were some great people in that show.
So my question would be, what was your take on the 1994 series? Because I feel like it was Ultimate Spider-Man was the what if scenario. What if you did the animated series instead?
Well, we were all doing, and I mean a lot of writers around town were doing superheroes concurrently. We were doing Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and X-Men, and to some degree we were all looking over everybody's shoulder and seeing what they were doing, getting ideas, or saying, oh, that's pretty good. I think John Semper did a really good job on his Spider-Man show, everything. Yeah, so. It's, but I didn't look at it directly. We sort of had a mandate to do Spider-Man a certain way for Ultimate Spider-Man, and so we followed that. And it kind of fell in line with what Marvel and Disney wanted to do with that one.
So, was your experience with Batman Beyond help influence Ultimate Spider-Man in any way? Because it was Spider-Man.
A little bit. We had an incredible amount of freedom on Batman Beyond, and with Spider-Man, it was more like, here's what you guys are doing. And I would have preferred to have done different things with Spider-Man if I had had the chance. And that was one of the things that Bruce Timm and Kevin Altieri and Glenn Murakami and the crew would kind of fantasize about. What would you do if we could do Spider-Man? And the character never came our way. So, so I would have It was less my call and less influences that I could bring into Spider-Man for Disney than the agenda they already had. Thanks.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jules. I'm a really big fan of your work with Harley Quinn and Satana. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your writing process, if there's a software you prefer to use, or if you stick to like a more traditional method like Post-its to plot the point, or do you like storyboard?
To some degree, yes to all of those. Like, I will, if I'm working on the middle of a series, I tend to get a lot of ideas, like with Batman Beyond or with Batman the Animated Series. So I'm up and running on something. And so I kind of will have it in my mind, where we're gonna go. In other shows, like with Freakazoid, for instance, I would sort of jot down ideas and keep them to the side, or with or Tom and Jerry. I worked on a couple of Tom and Jerry direct-to-video features. I would just keep a sketchbook and I just draw random ideas in scribble form for bits of business and storytelling. And sometimes it would make it in, sometimes it wouldn't. But I usually rely on myself and writing an outline and dealing with the producers, and then writing the script myself. And on shows like Spider-Man and Hulk Agent of Smash, it was all writer's room, and I prefer not to do that. I mean, you bring a lot of people in, but there are a lot of different voices and chaos.
What about you, Tom? Because for your writing process.
No, this is their panel, Joey.
No.
They don't want to know. No, they don't. My writing process, for the comedy stuff, I've noticed that I always write the dialogue first. I don't even put in the action. Because if you listen to the dialogue on all those Animaniac shows, even Tiny Toons, there's a certain rhythm and poetry to them, and not that they rhyme, but there's a definite rhythm, and so you hear them, and you hear them in the recording booth, and they just sound just right, and so that's why I write them that way.
I remember about just a few months ago, you sent me you'd written the script with the Warners in it, and it was really funny, and it was back and forth, and it was more in the style of classic 40s radio with a banter back and forth.
Yeah, it was about the Warners getting out of after the pandemic that we all went through. They were going to go on a road trip up the coast of California. It was just one horrible pun after another.
Do you have a favorite Animaniacs song, like one that you still go back and listen to?
Oh, the song?
Yeah.
favorite
Yes.
song? Well, I wrote Lake Titicaca.
You guys know that song? Lake Titicaca, oh Lake Titicaca, it's between Bolivia and Peru.
Everybody.
Lake Titicaca, oh Lake Titicaca, with water so tranquil and blue. Lake Titicaca, oh Lake Titicaca, why do we sing of its fame? Lake Titicaca, oh Lake Titicaca, because we really like saying your name, Titicaca!
Yeah. And you guys get a song. Dancing will be next.
Well done, by the way.
Thank you.
Hi.
We're all
I have a question about.
Get really close to the mic. Real, like I did.
Hello.
Hi. So I have a question about back when Warner Brothers was actually making content to make money.
yeah.
You guys had a lot more opportunity, you had better art studios, better music. You guys had orchestras and stuff like that. But you also had network censors. So did you guys see network censorship as a hindrance, a challenge, or an opportunity?
Were network censors a hindrance,
A challenge.
a challenge, or an opportunity?
Well, there are two stories to tell here. One, I'll let Paul tell the Batman version.
Okay, all right.
And remember the T-shirt.
Yeah.
But on Animaniacs, the beauty of that was we had already had a successful series with Tiny Toons, and the network has their censors. But by Animaniacs, now we were like on a roll. And when the network censors would come to us and say, "We object to this piece of business right here," we would say, "Oh, Stephen loves that."
Yeah.
And well, okay then, because our mission was to keep Stephen happy.
Yep.
And even if they continue to object, I said, well, if you want to call Stephen, go ahead. So we got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And on Batman, it was a little more, they were a little more vocal because we were dealing with guns and, mad killers and things like that. You mentioned the t-shirt with all the images on it. Yeah. Bruce Timm did a drawing of everything that the network objected to, and that was Batman with his hand clutched around the Joker's neck, going through a plate glass window, Joker shooting Batman, Catwoman smoking, kids being endangered. They were all things.
Some alcohol.
Yeah.
Nudity, I think.
I think Joker had a hypodermic needle and
Yes.
also drugs, things like that we couldn't do. But we thought, okay, well, let's be clever and put them in anyway. Let's find ways around that. Like, there would be one thing where Batman is after Rupert Thorne's got a drug ring, and he's selling drugs, and we weren't specific. He goes to a hoodlum, you're trying to muscle into my drug ring, and it's like, that's what he's doing, but we're not specific, and we don't show like a meth lab or anything. So it's a world where that exists. And it's a world where people get shot, and a lot of it happens off screen. With Robin's Reckoning, they definitely did not want to show the Graysons dying in the trapeze accident. So we have the rope swinging and broken, and the music doesn't sing. We're not showing anything, but it's just as traumatic or it's just as emotional, I should say. And the fact that it forces the directors, as filmmakers, to come up with another way to still get that emotional impact. Because we're not going for gore, we're going for the emotion. Or the tragic feeling that a scene like that will elicit. And if we can get that in some other way, rather than just showing somebody getting shot, then we'll do it. And it plays off well.
Sorry. There was one script that I wrote that had Batman going to a priest who could intervene in this thug who we grew up with. Real, dirty faces like the Cagney movie. But anyway, so Batman's going into the church to talk to the priest, and I originally wrote it. He goes into the confessional, and he's there facing the priest inside the confessional. Then he leaves. He goes out from the confessional, leaving the church, and the altar boys are up there at the head of the church, and one of them says to the other, "Funny, I always thought he was Episcopalian." But they didn't let that go through.
Yeah, there were some times when I would put things in just because they amused me or they spoke to the character of the scene, and they would object to that. Like in Harley and Ivy, there's a scene where Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy are not in their suits, they're just hanging out at home and they're dressed in t-shirts and nightshirts and whatever. And Ivy was originally going to wear a t-shirt that said "Save the Rainforest" on it. And BSP objected to that, and they said,
"You can't have a bad guy do something good."
Yeah, that was exactly it. They said this is a very positive message espoused by a villain, and I said she's not always bad. She's thoughtful person in a weird way, and ultimately I didn't mind losing that because we had a lot of other action and a lot of other things. And that was a gift to them. Like, okay, I'll give you that, but I want to keep Harley blowing up the kids and the jerks with the bazooka. And so you get that, and that's less, and then you're sending overseas, and when they have to do lettering on a character that's up and moving around, it's going to be misspelled from scene to scene and stuff.
Thanks.
Very good, thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark, and
Hi, Mark.
about the animatics. Sorry, I get a little nervous. Anyway.
Real close to the mic, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have that.
So, what's a scene that's underrated that you personally love and that you don't really hear people talk about?
Did you get that?
Say that again.
What's
Say
it?
that one more time?
In the animatics, I can say it right. Sorry.
What's a scene that?
What's a scene that's underrated that you guys don't really hear people talk about, but that you guys personally love?
Do you have a favorite cartoon that nobody really talks about?
Oh, a favorite scene in
scenes.
Animaniacs. Favorite scene in Animaniacs. that somebody
Gosh,
talked about.
there's we made 99 episodes, so half hour, 99, 50 hours of stuff. So out of that, it's really tough because it was over many years. I mean, there are very few cartoons and Animaniacs that I actively dislike. unless the hippos are involved. But I you know, all the Pinky the Brains, all the Warners, I love them. I even like a lot of the Rita and Runts, and I love all the Slappies. You know, one scene that I talk about a lot, which I probably shouldn't, but I love it, and I wrote it with John McCann, was Woodstock Slappy, where Slappy is pointing to the stage and said, you know, Skippy, you know, what's the name of that band on stage? And Skippy goes, who? The name of the band, who? So it was a real Abbott and Costello routine, but we stretched it out for over like 5 minutes. It was great.
Also, one more question. Do you guys have any, like, I guess, advice or tips for any aspiring animators in this day of age?
I would say just find out, you know, focus on what you want to do and do your best and to find out where you can start work in that field. And now with the internet, you can look into startup animation companies. You can even look up starting up to do it your own. Tom and I started in the business in the late 70s when animation was really sort of dead. There was Disney doing a feature every 4 years, and even then they weren't gonna, you know, they weren't sure if they were gonna do anymore. And then there was Saturday morning TV, and there was this, our friend Tom Minton says there was a big gulf. There were guys like us starting off in their early 20s, and then there were guys in their 70s we were just sort of, you know, making a little extra insurance money at Hanna-Barbera and Filmation.
Yeah, they had worked on Popeye in the 30s.
Yeah. And there was nothing in between. So now I hear there's no work, everybody's out of work, which is depressing, but it's also a good time that could, you know, spark some opportunity. So I'd say look and see where the companies are, try and make yourself available, study what they're doing and see, rather than try perhaps to do your own feature right away, try and be adaptable to what they've got going on.
And get together with other like-minded people like yourselves who are interested in pursuing something, to create a little team that you can turn out a short.
Yeah, I would make that statement. That was true for just about everybody in the creative arts. At that point in my life, I'd see actors banding together to kind of feed off each other, and composers, and the ones who stuck with it were the ones who broke through and had careers.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Luke.
Hi. Sorry, this is my first one of these. I'm a little nervous. Yes. I have two questions. One of which, is there any new like ideas for series or like things in the works that you can talk about or say or mention?
Well, not for me. I mean, I'm not doing animation anymore. I've kind of moved off and are doing other things. It's not to say that we wouldn't do it again, but right now at the moment, I don't have any plans at the moment.
Yeah, and Paul and I made a little cartoon a couple of years ago, and for anyone who has a few $1 million, we'd be glad to turn it into a series.
Yeah. If you look on YouTube, you can see the cartoon that Tom and Paul put. It's basically an animatic form at this point.
Yeah,
right?
it's called Bernice and Carlisle Save the World. It's about two animals from the National Zoo who saved the president's life. Not the current president, but a president.
Yeah, the president in our cartoon is really stupid.
Yeah, not like real life.
Not like in real life.
No.
And he's grateful, and he moves them into the White House as his bodyguards. So check it out. If you win the lottery tonight, remember.
Yeah.
My second question was. Sorry, we're
Go ahead.
not done.
No.
Okay. My second question was, when making Batman the Animated Series, was there any characters you wanted or hoped that would be in the series, or that weren't able to get in?
Couldn't put in.
We really had full range to use any character that we wanted in the DC universe connected with Batman. We couldn't use, at that time, we couldn't use Superman, we couldn't use the main characters in the Justice League, so that's why we had outliers like Jonah Hex and Zatanna, showing up at first, because they weren't being used, and they kind of fit into the stories we were telling. There were characters that we you know, like we never got around to Cavalier, we never got around to Killer Moth, we never got around to
King Tut.
King Tut. Well, we couldn't because he was owned by the other folks, Tweedledee, Tweedledum. But there was the only one that we couldn't use, and this was from plays back to the censor, was Nocturna, because they didn't want us doing vampire stories. And Bruce wanted to make her a vampire, and he did put her in Cape Crusader, so he did do his version of Nocturna there. So, but that was the only one that we couldn't use.
Okay, and we have to go with one question per person now, okay? So we're gonna have to move on.
Sorry.
That's all right, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Come by the table, we'll answer them.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. So growing up, all my favorite shows were animated TV, and that kind of pursued me that encouraged me to pursue art. So I'm just curious, what projects for you guys growing up encouraged or inspired you to kind of pursue animation?
Well, I watched a lot of Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, Quick Draw McGraw, Bugs and Daffy cartoons. I love cartoons. My parents saw me drawing Fred Flintstone when he first came on, and I was on the floor watching and drawing, and they just gave me more paper and more crayons. So that was part of the encouragement.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the same shows that Tom did, Flintstones, Huckleberry Hound, Yogi. And I also, when I go to the movies, like a Disney feature, it was sitting in the darkness, and the Buena Vista logo comes up, and the music swells up, and it just took me to a different world. And it's like, I want to live that world. I don't want to leave in about 90 minutes and go back to my world. And they also, in my neighborhood, it's one of the last theaters where they would get newly released shorts. So all the way up to like 1977, they were running Pink Panther and Ant the Aardvark and stuff. Not the greatest, but still, you were going to go see a movie, and I love that. I love seeing
The Berry family.
the Berry family. Oh yeah, Woody Woodpecker.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Mr. Paul Dini, if talking about, let's say, a live action Batman Beyond,
Yeah.
I've been watching Boy Meets World and it came to me, what if Will Friedle during that time could have played a live Terry McGinnis and using the cast of Boy Meets World, like Ben Savage as the younger brother, the dad, what happens in Batman Beyond gets murdered, and Mr. Michael Keaton playing as the original Batman. Did that ever come across your mind? What if different times could have happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, it would have been great if all those elements had come together, but again, it's the time. Batman Beyond is so vibrant now because it's been 25 years, and people have grown up with it, and then you look back and here's what could have been. But at the time, you're dealing with the different mindset of different executives far beyond higher than our pay level, so, we did what we could, and hopefully, we made something that endured.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Rosemary. I'm an independent researcher studying media and medicine. If you think about where cartoons are now and where animation appears to be going, and if you consider 90s nostalgia as the popular niche that it is now, what guiding principle do you hope that the next generation of artists and storytellers remember when shaping culture through entertainment? And if it's all right with you, I'm going to get just a little bit closer to actually video record your answers, if that's okay.
Sure.
This will be an award-winning video.
Yes.
So good. Watch this.
Hi. What was the question? The next generation. Yeah. Go ahead.
It should just be funny, I think that the best cartoons come out of a sense of humor, even the ones that have a kind of dark theme to them. You can offset that with a bit of humor. Always remember to keep the characters vibrant. Let the characters and their interaction drive the story and the humor and the drama, and not necessarily, here's a character with snazzy powers, or here's a setting that we've seen a zillion times before. Tell your story from the point of view of the characters.
And don't talk down to the kids.
No.
I think Animaniacs, Batman, these shows we made back in the 90s, they really they cared about the audience. They didn't want to, they wanted to entertain the audience, and they didn't want to like make the kids feel, oh, this is baby stuff. It wasn't. I mean, Batman clearly wasn't, and even Animaniacs, they had colorful characters, but they introduced a lot of cultural events, cultural names, things that kids didn't know anything about, but they were learning about it for the first time, and and all those kids grew up and they think back, what? The first time I heard about that was on Animaniacs. So let your kids learn through your show.
And encourage their vocabularies also, because that's one of the things that I really admire with Animaniacs and with Freakazoid is the Warners were kid characters, but Yakko's vocabulary was very knowing, and it spoke to kids and adults. And if you didn't understand exactly what he's saying, you went and looked it up. Like when I was a kid, like reading Linus and Charlie Brown and Peanuts, the vocabulary was not one that kids in my playground had, but it made those characters very engaging to me. And that's sort of your step into a larger world.
And it also helps with the rewatchability, I think, of those shows too, when you don't talk down to the audience, because as an adult, you rewatch it and discover things you never saw before. We were talking before about censorship, and my favorite innuendo isn't the fingerprints joke that everyone brings up on Animaniacs. It's a very short moment in King Yakko where she goes, sire, we have to go to the cabinet meeting, and he goes up to the cabinet and he goes, oh, hi, I'm King Yakko, and she goes, sire, and he says, wait till we're alone. And
Because you see the word sire, it kind of means that.
Sire means to have your heirs, right, and everything like that. So anyway, that right there, I didn't catch that at all until years later watching it, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, did I just hear what I just heard?
That was filthy.
I was like, wow.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
So I think it's good that we ended that question, answer with the word filthy. Anyway.
I think it just ended it down to
Yeah.
One thing I always think when I watch some of your shows is how well they've aged, how well they've stood the test of time. And even though it's been, over 30 years, and my question to you both is, what changes have you noticed, because obviously a lot in television has changed in that time, what changes in particular in animation have you guys noticed or encountered, experienced, good and bad? Feel free to get juicy with this one.
I just, first of all, the shows we made in those 90s, up until about 98, they were all, they were hand-drawn, they were painted on cells, if you can believe it. I mean, that's just unheard of today. I mean, I think it is. I don't think they do.
No.
And so that's why our shows are among the only ones you can still actually go to some, like, a gallery and get a cell.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's different. Right now, our business is very niche oriented, and so a show is made for, literally they'll say, oh no, this show, your stuff is too old, it's too smart. This is for 2 to 4 year olds. They have shows for like 1 year olds now. It's like, tap the screen. I mean, I don't know what the little kids are just sitting there like zombies. So, but back when we were making our shows, it was a very general audience kind of event. I mean, we weren't particularly guided by, we have to make it for 11-year-olds. We were just trying to entertain ourselves, and it worked out.
Yeah. Also, that was a little bit of the culture at the time, because animation was in a renaissance. People had gone to see Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and suddenly that made cartoons very mainstream again, and brought in an adult appeal, even though in itself Roger is a very kind of PG movie. People liked seeing cartoons. They remembered that they liked the characters that they grew up with. And Steven Spielberg was a big fan of that, so he wanted to bring back cartoons that he would laugh at, that he could show to his kids, and they would all laugh at. And so there was that sort of general feeling of let's really create something for everybody. And Tom is right, it's become very regimented over the years. Like, this is for the you know, it's for aspirational kids, you know, 8 to 11, and it's too fun. Those are my favorite. Now, is this an action comedy or a comedy action? And it really is. Is this comedy adventure or comedy or adventure comedy? It comes down to that because it's like that's the way the executives will break down everything. And it's rare. Every once in a while I'll find a show that I can relate to on, you know, watching it online or on TV, like the Mickey Mouse shorts that Paul Ruegger did some years back were really good, and Phineas and Ferb now is, you know, that I can watch and really laugh at because it's a lot of fun. But then again, you've got creators heavily invested and who kind of prove themselves to the bosses that they can do this. But everything else, it's all kind of the same. It's all, you know.
So we only have like, we're supposed to be at her in 15.
13
So
minutes left.
we're gonna make sure these 4 wonderful people get their questions
Right, yeah.
answered.
Hello again. So, surprisingly, not a Batman question, actually more of a Freakazoid question.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, since we're in the age of internet brain rot, memes, and the age of superhero media being the dominant form, Freakazoid is very much ahead of its time.
Yeah.
What would you guys do nowadays if you were to do a Freakazoid sort of revival or comic to tackle like the modern internet age and the generation that's grown up on the internet and shaped their brains and kind of did rot our brains to the core?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. Probably make the show about 12 times faster than it was originally, and definitely, you know, lots more Paul Ruegger, bring him back to oversee everything, and that's what I would do. Is I'd have Paul and John come back, bring in a bunch of people who are amazingly tech savvy, who live in that, you know, the TikTok lightning fast world, and meld them, put them together. I think you'd get a really great thing.
Freakazoid might, if he were frozen back then, he might come back and be behind the 8 ball. He may not be caught up.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's worth trying. Paul did do a cameo of Freakazoid on the
Teen Titans.
Teen Titans.
Teen Titans Go, there's a great it's a love letter to Freakazoid.
Yeah.
And Paul Ruegger did write a script for, you know, for a pitch for Freakazoid, the new season,
Right.
and they did not,
Recently.
and he told me about it, just really hilarious concept of it, but they didn't, Warner Brothers didn't bite
It was self-referential in that
Yes.
it was a Freakazoid episode about doing an update for Freakazoid, and he was very concerned. You know. Anyway.
Yeah. Hey, if anyone's going to go to Twin Cities Con in November, get over there because we're going to have the Freakacon.
Yeah.
And if you're a Freakazoid fan, get to Twin Cities Con because that's going to be a real great event.
Bring your formal attire.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is dress formal.
I'd say FreakCon kind of sounds a bit odd in the age of freak off, so.
Oh,
You stay away from
freak
that.
offs.
Yeah, but they're the best.
Freakacon. Oh, good.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Dini,
Yes.
so in your time working on the DC shows,
Yeah.
you managed to create like a bunch of great characters that worked very well, not only in the show, but they also were adapted into comics, into live action, into video games. Obviously,
Yeah.
Harley Quinn was mentioned, but I also enjoyed like Livewire and Mercy as well. So I'm wondering, have you ever seen any adaptations of your characters that you personally enjoyed? And conversely, were there any other adaptations where you're just like, what were they thinking?
Well, you know, here's the weird thing: is I don't stay with it when I'm not doing it. I know that the characters are out there, and occasionally, like you mentioned, Livewire. I'll see, oh, someone used Livewire in something. There she is. And but I don't. There's so much entertainment out there, and there's so much going on that I can't keep up with it. And I love it when I'm working on it. And then once it's done, I'm kind of ready for the next thing. So when I read a comic story that Livewire is in, or I saw, you know, Justice League used Volcana or some of the characters like that, when they show up, I'm happy to see them, but I just can't keep up with it all, you know. But I'm grateful that they're out there and people love them.
Thanks.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you again for signing my 4K for Mask of the Phantasm. And my quick question is, according to Wikipedia, the very first animated show you both worked on together was Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle. And according to Wikipedia, it's the most faithful of all Edgar Rice Burroughs adaptations for the big screen and small screen. Is that really true even with the later movies with Bo Derek and Christopher Lambert?
No, it was not. First off, no. The first show we worked on was Sport Billy, which is a show you will never ever see. Although it's probably
you can probably watch it on YouTube. It's the worst little show you ever saw.
It was a show Filmation got to promote from overseas to promote soccer and Olympics. Yeah. And this was something, you were coming from Hanna-Barbera, I was finishing up like a few months at Filmation, and then they got this show, and it was really awful. And then
they got the show. So Lou Sharma comes in, we're gonna make 50 sport bills, or 30 quid. And we need all the scripts done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there was a staff of maybe seven writers, and one of the writers, they literally just fed the paper into the typewriter. Just like, tell me when I'm at the bottom of the page, will you?
Oh, that's Ted Peterson or Dennis
Ted
Marks.
Peterson.
Ted Peterson.
And okay, put in the next piece of paper.
Yeah.
Okay. And they say, wait, I'm getting toward page 30. We should wrap it up page 30. Okay. Okay, done. Put in the next. We'll do the next script.
Yeah, and they were all the same, you know.
And oh my
Sport
God.
Belly fights an evil witch who hates sports. Oh, okay, great. But then, yeah, we did do Tarzan together. Yeah, that was
Nakima.
Tantor.
But it's not the most faithful of all Edgar Rice Burroughs?
No, I mean, it was kind of close to Edgar Rice Burroughs. Yeah, it was. I mean, we had some other writers on it, like Michael Reeves, who was a science fiction fan, and a lot of people did know the Burroughs stuff, so they did draw from it. It's just that, we were burdened by the model, by the stock books on that.
And the CBS censors.
Yeah.
You couldn't even pick up a stick.
Yeah. Tarzan can't fight a lion in this. He can fight a leopard. We have stock of him fighting a leopard.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey there, Paul.
Hey.
Chris with Top Level Comics. Hey, listen, we've been friends on Facebook for about a decade now. And,
Sure.
I was like your host on The New Yorker.
Uh-huh.
No question, really. I just want to say thank you. Last time I was in a signing with you was at the Grove 9 years ago in 2016.
Wow, that's right.
You were promoting your book, The Darkest Night.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank you because you were very brave and courageous for writing a story about
Thank you.
how you survived an attack.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I was bullied and jumped.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
reading your story actually helped me get through that.
Thank you. I'm sorry that happened.
No, it's just that a lot of us, we go through things and sometimes we resort to comic book mediums to survive things, so I want to say thank you. And Dustin Nguyen is one of my closest acquaintances.
Yeah.
And I really liked your run in 2009 in Batman Gotham Knight when you and him wrote a story about Damian against Mr. Zsasz.
Yeah.
And another bully story. And I really thought that Damian should have won that, but you wrote it so that Zsasz won. No! So, but
I had to fight with, that was a fight with DC. I wanted to kill him.
I'm gonna take some pictures of this one.
I really wanted him dying in that one because there's a character. But again, you can't, the characters take on a life and an identity, and Zsasz has been in 2 or 3 movies, I think, at this point. And so you can't kill off a character, but hopefully, Damian gave him a good fight. So.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you.
Actually, here's a weird thing. The cover on that, where he's, kind of looking ahead and cutting his arm like you're the guy he's going to mark off. I posed for that. I had an idea, and I had my wife shoot this, and I'm going like cutting myself and pointing ahead. Dustin got it, goes, oh, all right. It's awesome.
Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Just real quick, thank you for being here and thank you for your time. Any great memories or lessons that you've carried with you working in Filmation, like working on He-Man and Masters of the Universe or Gilligan's Planet?
Met this guy.
We've been pals ever since.
Yeah. I had a job at Warner's thanks to you because we'd get together off and on over the years when you were at HB. You would call me in and say, hey, you want to run a Scooby or something.
He flew back to New Hampshire to my wedding.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Flew to my wedding?
Yep, great guy.
First wedding.
So, yeah, first wedding.
First wedding. And
My first wife said, yeah, you know, we're gonna have renew our vows, and she said, oh, wouldn't that be fun, you know, to get married again? I said, yeah, but to who? But anyway, yeah, Paul was my pal at Filmation. We had. Did you ever have to work on the Tom and Jerry show?
a little bit.
Oh,
a little bit.
that
Boy,
was tough. That was tough. There were some bad experiences, and I'm trying to think of the good ones.
I remember one day, it was before video, you know, we would get, Luke Schreimer had this little screening room, like a little screening booth, and we crowded in there, and I remember some of the board artists were watching like a Tex Avery short, like Swing Shift Cinderella.
Right.
And there was a writer, remember Coslow Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. He came in there and he said, don't do any of that. Don't do any of that. You can't do any of that. And he brought in, next day he brought in a stack of joke books. And they were like 100 riddles for kids and says, do this, don't knock yourself out. They won't put anything like that on it. Just do these riddles. And he adapted a lot of riddles and jokes, and that's why they did that horrible laugh-in segment where they were,
Yes.
oh.
Johnson, he was Artie Johnson's brother,
Yeah.
and was actually the guy on Laugh-In that was on the tricycle.
Yeah.
Now I'm really dating myself.
Yeah, like, you know, laughing, right?
Anyway,
Silent comedy.
we should let you all go.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Well, Tom and Paul, thank you so much for your wonderful questions. Tom and Paul are going to be heading back to their table right now. If there's any questions you guys weren't able to ask or you think of on, you know, since we're gone, come on down to the table, say hi, and I'd like to thank you all for being here. And thank you, Tom, Paul, for helping.